The Fable of the Ass, the Ox, and the Laborer. A very rich merchant had several farmhouses in the country, where he bred every kind of cattle. This merchant understood the language of beasts. He obtained this privilege on the condition of not imparting to anyone what he heard, under penalty of death. By chance, he had put an ox and an ass into the same stall, and being seated near them, he heard the ox say to the ass, "How happy do I think your lot! A servant looks after you with great care, washes you, feeds you with fine, sifted barley, and gives you fresh and clean water. Your greatest task is to carry the merchant, our master. My condition is as unfortunate as yours is pleasant. They yoke me to a plough the whole day, while the laborer urges me on with his goad. The weight and the force of the plough, too, shaves all the skin from my neck. When I have worked from morning till night, they give me unwholesome and uninviting food. Have I not, then, reason to envy your lot?" When he had finished, the ass replied in these words, "Believe me, they would not treat you thus if you possessed as much courage as strength. When they come to tie you to the manger, what resistance, pray, do you ever make? Do you ever push them with your horns? Do you ever show your anger by stamping on the ground with your feet? Why don't you terrify them with your bellowing? Nature has given you the means of making yourself respected, and yet you neglect to use them. They bring you bad beans and chaff. Well, do not eat them. Smell at them only and leave them. Thus, if you follow my plans, you will soon perceive a change, which you will thank me for." The ox took the advice of the ass very kindly, and declared himself much obliged to him. Early the next morning, the laborer came for the ox, and yoked him to the plough, and set him to work as usual. The latter, who had not forgotten the advice he had received, was very unruly the whole day, and at night, when the laborer attempted to fasten him to the stall, he ran bellowing back, and put down his horn to strike him. In short, he did exactly as the ass had advised him. On the next morning, when the man came, he found the manger still full of beans and chaff, and the ox lying on the ground with his legs stretched out and making a strange groaning. The laborer thought him very ill, and that it would be useless to take him to work. He, therefore, immediately went and informed the merchant. The latter perceived that the bad advice of the ass had been followed, and he told the laborer to go and take the ass instead of the ox, and not fail to give him plenty of exercise. The man obeyed, and the ass was obliged to drag the plough the whole day, which tired him the more because he was unaccustomed to it. Besides which, he was so beaten that he could scarcely support himself when he came back, and fell down in his stall half dead. Here the Grand Vizier said to Scheherazade, "You are, my child, just like this ass. and would expose yourself to destruction. Sir, replied Scheherazade, the example which you have brought does not alter my resolution, and I shall not cease importuning you till I have obtained from you the favor of presenting me to the Sultan as his consort. The vizier, finding her persistent in her request, said, Well then, since you will remain this obstinate, I shall be obliged to treat you as the rich merchant I mentioned did his wife. Being told in what a miserable state the ass was, he was curious to know what happened between him and the ox. After supper, therefore, he went out by moonlight, accompanied by his wife, and sat down near them. On his arrival, he heard the ass say to the ox, Tell me, brother, what you mean to do when the laborer brings you food tomorrow. Mean to do, replied the ox, why, what you taught me to be sure. Take care, interrupted the ass, what you are about, lest you destroy yourself, for in coming yesterday evening, I heard our master say these sad words, Since the ox can neither eat nor support himself, I wish him to be killed tomorrow. Do not, therefore, fail to send for the butcher. This is what I heard, and the interest I take in your safety, and the friendship I have for you, induces me to mention it. When they bring you beans and chef, get up and begin eating directly. Our master by this will suppose that you have recovered, and will, without a doubt, revoke the sentence for your death. In my opinion, if you act otherwise, it is all over with you. This speech produced the intended effect. The ox was much troubled and loaded with fear. The merchant, who had listened to everything with great attention, burst into a fit of laughter that quite surprised his wife. Tell me, said she, what you laugh at, that I may join in it. I wish to know the cause. That satisfaction, replied the husband, I cannot afford you. I can only tell you that I laughed at what the ass said to the ox. The rest is a secret, which I must not reveal. And why not? Asked his wife. Because if I tell you, it will cost me my life. You trifle with me, added she. This can never be true, and if you do not immediately inform me what you laughed at, I swear by Allah that we will live together no longer. In saying this, she went back to the house in a pet, shut herself up, and cried the whole night. Her husband, finding that she continued in the same state all the next day, said, How foolish it is to afflict yourself in this way. Do I not seriously tell you that if I were to yield to your foolish importunities, it would cost me my life? Whatever happens rests with Allah, said she, but I shall not alter my mind. I see very plainly, answered the merchant, it is not possible to make you submit to see reason, and that your obstinacy will kill you. He then sent for the parents and other relations of his wife. When they were all assembled, he explained to them his motives for calling them together, and requested them to use all their influence with his wife, and endeavor to convince her of the folly of her conduct. She rejected them all, and said she had rather die than give up this point to her husband. When her children saw that nothing could alter her resolution, they began to lament most bitterly. The merchant himself knew not what to do. A little while afterwards he was sitting by chance at the door of his house, considering whether he should not even sacrifice himself in order to save his wife, whom he so tenderly loved, when he saw his favorite dog run up to the cock in the farmyard and tell him all the circumstances of the painful situation in which he was placed. Upon which the cock said, "How foolish must our master be! He has but one wife, and cannot gain his point, while I have 50, and do just as I please. Let him take a good-sized stick, and not scruple to use it, and she will soon know better, and not worry to reveal what he ought to keep secret." The merchant at once did as he suggested, on which his wife quickly repented of her ill-timed curiosity, and all her family came in, heartily glad at finding her more rational and submissive to her husband.